Disclaimer. Before I start the video, I know why many of you are wondering, why am I starting this? Well, let me tell you. Since two of my most popular series in this, channel have been on pause due to writer's block, which are going to be on pause for probably a little bit, The Angel and The Division, and, on London, since all three of those, including a newer version, which many of you know is called The Gentleman Scientist, since all three of those are on hold at the moment, and I have no idea how to, since I'm trying to write up and how to get past my writer's block, I'm going to be starting a few other series, and as soon as my writer block's done, I will restart those, and I'll put these ones on hold. Now, the ones to be expecting in this next season, till I can get over my writer's block and get those ones done, will be the following: A Cry of Fear, A Criminal's Mind, Chappie's Awakening. Now, I'm not going to be posting The Demon yet, as I'm still trying to write that out. I still have room for one more till my head gets clogged. So if any of you want to suggest a story, go for it. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop talking now. Simon remembered it very vaguely. He remembered everything. 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 He was lonely. He'd been through hell and back. No one could truly blame him for his anger, for the torture he'd been through. He'd been through hell and back. And he had seen so many horrors. He had seen so much. And through all of that, he had never felt more lonely. He had lost everyone close to him. He didn't know where his mother was. Sophie left him. He was betrayed by his doctors and the meds they put him on. Bullshit. Been in this hellscape, fighting psychos. And now, at the very end, everything blacked. As soon as he faced his greatest rival, himself. Simon opened his eyes. He was drowsy. He was unsettled. He put one of his gloved hands on the ground below him, moving over, putting one hand on the ground and pushing himself up, taking his hand and running it over his face. He looked around him, confused. He didn't know what to think, where he was. The one thought that did occur to him was, he's probably stuck out in the woods, somewhere. Maybe out in the park, most likely. Immediately he checked his satchel bag, and he frowned. The only things he did have, which he was thankful for, he had his phone, he had some flares, a switchblade, a flashlight, a Glock 19 with some magazines, and a few syringes. He didn't have his Remington 870, nor did he have his HKMB5. This was, well, disappointing, to say the least. He at least had a decent start out. He had a gun. That was something. He looked around him. He'd have to be careful with the gun. If he encountered a drowned, it might be his end. He remembered his first encounter with a drowned. He put the gun to his head and nearly shot himself. But he was able to resist. Simon began walking, his hoodie keeping him rather warm, which made him feel pretty happy. He didn't trust it, though. He kept at his handgun at all costs, at all times. The only way he could get sleep is if he blocked out the windows, the doors, and always kept a gun in his hand. Or a weapon. He could never trust sleep. Simon looked around. It wasn't a depressing atmosphere like he was expecting. It was bright and colorful. It was beautiful. It was something different. He'd never seen such peace. He'd never felt at peace like this before. Not in a while, anyway. He kept walking, keeping his guard up. Not wanting to, well, give anything the benefit of the doubt. So he began walking. He couldn't help but feel his head aching. And a memory quickly toiled back into his head. Simon had began running, moving his feet as fast as they could carry him. He could hear the psychos behind him. He ran. The psycho, many would ask what it was. It was a person. Well, at least he thought it was. They wore buckets on their head, shaped like masks, which seemed to be made of paper, and they wielded an axe. And they'd charge, and they wouldn't give a fuck. He turned very quickly, with incredible speed. He turned, firing off one round of his revolver. As it pierced through his head, the psycho yanked backwards, falling onto the ground. Simon quickly looked to his right to see a crazy runner, a woman charging at him with a knife in her hand, wearing a white dress covered in blood with long black hair. He turned, fired one round into her chest, and she fell over. He breathed in and out, and in and out. As he ran, he saw the drowned. His vision got gray and cloudy. He raised the gun and began crying as tears welled into his eyes, slowly pouring down his cheeks. He put the gun under his chin, but then yanked it down quickly, aiming it at her, firing a round off, then firing another. She fell down. He went up, pointed gunner at her head, and fired one more time before reloading. It was a waste of a bullet, but he didn't care. He didn't care. He was just glad it was dead. That memory would haunt him. There are many memories that would haunt him. You remember when you saw a human flower, seeing toddlers, babies. It was too much. Too much. You remember when you saw a saw runner. It was horrifying. But he was able to move past it. Now he walked. Eventually he grew tired, sat down underneath a tree. He hadn't felt like he'd been sleeping. Simon pulled down his left sleeve, taking out a pocket knife from his satchel, and began scarring himself. This is Simon, and this is his story in Equestria.